Hello, this is Maniacal Cackle with another pre-game analysis video. Uh, once again, I am working on getting the sound issues with the videos worked out, so if you have any feedback about the sound, please send that through. And this is my second competitive game as Guild, so I'm definitely open to feedback on what I'm saying here as well. Um, so for this matchup, I am against Nekima on, and I'm playing Nellie 1. And so Nekima on Guard the Stash on Wedge deployment with this map here. Um, Lots of Severe on this map was definitely a big consideration, but luckily I'm attacker, so I have some options there. Um, the scheme pool is Vendetta, Leave Your Mark, Hidden Martyrs, Spread Them Out, and Public Demonstration. Uh, so a big thing to consider with this pool is it's pretty um, it's pretty center based, but not mandatory to control the center. Um, so for instance, here, what we with these wedge deployment zones, uh, over here in the corners, you can travel further here. It's more work to get them, but you can score points off these back ones. Um, or you can score off the center ones, which are more likely to be contested because your opponent uh, has to be on the center. However, for denial, you need to be on the center ones, your back ones. So what that kind of means is like it's more efficient to be in the center for the strategy because you can both score and deny in that spot, which is really good. So guard the stash on this form of deployment on standard is pretty much often going to be about there'll be an advantage to the person who controls the center, but it's not strictly necessary. This pool having leave your mark really encourages taking the center. Um, and Leave Your Mark is a funny scheme because it's a scheme where if your opponent doesn't contest the center, it's like automatically 2 points, very easy. Well, 4 AP, I won't call that easy, but it's doable. And if you both go after it, it becomes very, very difficult. So Leave Your Mark is the sort of scheme that screams, you need to go control the center, but maybe don't take the scheme because it's actually hard to score once it's a game where Leave Your Mark is in. So I would expect a lot of center fights here, especially over this forest. I think this forest here is defining uh, aspect of this map. These pieces of Severe are horrendously large, but as you can see, largely ignore them when scoring. So this forest is the most impactful thing. And I almost didn't declare Nellie just because like the concealment here is really, really bad for her. I think Lucius was the right call here because he has some really unimpeded models, uh, aka Lone Marshal and Pale Rider. He's as well with them. He can teleport around all this blocking terrain. He can just move wherever he wants. He's down the wrong path in Norse concealment. Like Lucius is very, very good on this. But again, I'm trying to do something new this month, so it's Ellie that I'm playing at. Um, and I do think she's pretty good on this. Uh, Vendetta is something all of Guild is great at. Leave Your Mark. Lucius is better at scoring it, but Nellie is way better at denying it. And she's pretty good at scoring it. Um, Hidden Martyrs, like every, uh, all of Guild is good at Hidden Martyrs, I think. Spread them out. Most of Guild is bad at it, but Lucius is really good at that, so it's like, and then public demonstration, I just feel like Guild is terrible at. I haven't found a good public demonstration combo yet. If anyone has found one, I'd be curious. Right, so I declared Nelly, and my opponent declared Nekima, and I knew he's soloing Nekima too in the past couple events, I think. So I knew almost certainly before I picked Nelly that it was going to be Nekima too. Um, and so this is interesting. So I started with, I really like Nellie, the printing press, and Alice and Dade. I think they're really powerful together, and they're why I like playing Nellie, and I enjoy that play style. So it was pretty much a guarantee that I was going to take Allison this time, even though she suffers really badly from that center, and I might get punished for it. Um, and I gave a lead line coat to Nellie. And I have some opinions on lead line coats, which again, early days for Guild. But basically, the role of lead line coat to protect a key model that you really, really need protected. In this case, I thought, oh, Nellie's central enough to my game plan. I need her to survive. Allison Dade, some places where that exclusive interview aura matters, she's central to my game plan. Like on cursed objects, I give her lead line coat, but here, I don't really care if she dies, like, um, as long as, you know, it takes my opponent some work. So I decide no leadline coat for her. I'd rather have the stones. Um, so that was one of the first big decisions. Oh, leadline coat on Alton Day. No, I decided I'll have upgrades on other models. Dies, she dies. Um, she's great for the so. Um, Specifically because her attack gives slow, stunned, and distracted in one go, which is amazing when you combo it with No News Day. Um, for Nekima, especially Nekima 2 in particular, uh, Black Blood is devastating. And Hoffman just stomps all over Nekima. So actually, I did a practice game with Hoffman so I could declare it for this matchup, and I realized I couldn't learn the rules fast enough. I didn't want to do any accidental cheats in a tournament game. That's not very sporting. So I decided to stick with a crew where I was pretty sure I won't accidentally. Um, so, you know, a crew that I know the rules pretty well for. So that's why I declared Nellie. But I think Hoffman here just stomps all over Nekima. She's really vulnerable to stunned. He can ignore all the black blood damage. It's just, and especially with the Metalier, just, well, it's just deadly. Um, and all that armor too is really, really bad for a min 3. Like, it's just a bad day for Nekima. Um, and so it's no surprise then that when I'm looking at the packages I want to bring into the crew, uh, armor 2 and no prisoners is what I brought. Like Peacekeeper with no prisoners, and Melissa Core with no prisoners is what I built because like these models are just incredibly difficult for Nekima to remove. Like they're so annoying for her. All her crew is min 1 against them. Peacekeeper has hard to wound, so it can't even use focused hits. You can on Melissa, but she has stones. Um, so that's all right. I think that's a really really solid block, and that's why I brought them. I also thought Melissa and Peacekeeper would be a good combination because Melissa can pass a power token to the Peacekeeper, and practicing my unpacks, I think that's not actually true. I think I've fucked that up, so I think wrong call here. He demands too much support, and I'd rather be putting that support in other models and building a list. You got to be really conscious of like, okay, which models are demanding support and how much support can I provide. And in this case, when I practiced my unpacks, I realized, oh, my crew demands more support than I can provide, and my models can't operate at full capacity. Especially in the movement sense, Peacekeeper is very slow, and he requires some of that movement. And I'm not actually able to provide that. So that's possibly bad, but luckily I think I can get away with it on this pool. I think it'll be all right, but the crew's slightly not optimized for that. I would change it if I were to. Um, Other things I considered, Lone Marshal because oh, and sorry, Pale Rider should actually be here as well. So let me grab him. Um, I mean, I don't think there's ever a time when Pale Rider's not being considered for list build, right? Like, uh, he's pretty good. Um, so Lone Marshal and Pale Rider both are unimpeded, which at first glance on this map matters so much. Look at these massive piles of severe. But as I pointed out, if you're attacker, the only severe patch you actually have to worry about is this one. And it's small enough that you can literally just brute force that, and that's my plan with this crew, is I have enough movement options that I could just send my peacekeepers literally can run through that patch of severe and I will be fine. And that's why my crew needs so much movement support this game, and printing press provides a lot. Um, but I think I've stretched myself a little bit thin there. So, the Peacekeeper should have been something else. Pale Rider, Lone Marshal, really great, but against Nekima, Pale Rider and Lone Marshal, you can give them Leadline Coat. I don't think it's very efficient. I don't like doing that. I like relying on their mobility to survive. I'm a player who really emphasizes mobility for survival. Um, but the mobility for survival plan doesn't work into Nekima. Like her crew can chase you no matter where you are on the map, and they can kill you. Lone Marshal is really bad into engagement. It has its bonus to disengage, but you have to win 2 duels to, or at least win 1 duel and have an okay result on the other to successfully disengage with the Lone Marshal. Um, and I often find that sometimes, for instance, the bonus doesn't hit, and then you're just like, oh. am I going to really spend a card to disengage? Like, um, so like, and then of course once he's pretty easy to kill. Like even with Leadline Coat, a Nekima crew gonna grind through him pretty fast between Black Blood and it's like, uh, I don't, and then also like he just can't do it. So I think in the Nekima matchup, I want to be the one to hold my ground. I don't want to be the mobile person. I want to be the person holding my ground, which is not my playstyle. I'm not very good at this, so it's going to be a challenging game for me. But I think in this matchup, the appropriate response is swap from the mobile playstyle that we saw last week to the hold your ground playstyle, which is the kind of crew. For that hold your ground playstyle, I did consider Francisco. Francisco is just a beast of a model, and you really see that in Perdita 2, of course, where he um, turned up to 11 with all the support in the world. Um, but the the even outside that crew, I think he's really potentially good on paper. He looks really promising. He's got those stat 7 attacks. He has a bonus action to put enemies on a minus in melee, which can be really annoying for a Nekima crew. Although young Nef get past it and the focus is an issue, um, but I think it's still really useful. He's got a good gun if he wants to just stand on the center and shoot out of it, which I think is my take and hold strategy. I'm planning on like taking and holding the center, and then I want to be able to use my. He can sit back and attack me from afar. I will go over his later, but um, so I want to take and hold the center and be productive while doing so. So Francisco can shoot out of the center, and then if stuff comes close, he's a monster. Um, the problem is like to be a full monster, he really needs Leadline Coat and no prisoners, and of course that's not possible. I really want the armor to blunt the melee attacks, and I want the no prisoners to blunt the black blood. Cause that's, I think, how I'm going to. So Francisco, not quite there. Fiona, I think, in retrospect, is maybe what I would have gone with. Um, I'm usually disappointed by her, uh, but the bring it would be really good here for like forcing models into melee when they don't want to be, which is a bit ironic, but because there's a Nekima crew, but that is a factor here. Um, they use mobility to survive, so not being where they want to be sometimes. Armor 1 with no prisoners would be quite good. Her attack's pretty decent. Um, and she could protect Allison Dade, since I'm not willing to put Leadline Code on Allison Dade. That actually would have been like kind of nice to have Fiona and Allison. Fiona's also better at doing Vendetta than Peacekeeper. That opens up a few scoring options. That's right. Um, and the other thing is Melissa could potentially go really aggro, and then Fiona could rescue her because Fiona is a model designed to rescue your own models. So I think Fiona might have been okay, but like I'm really not sure of what I wanted these plots. I think I was Melissa. I'm super happy with, and then out of the 5 options, I'm not sure what the ideal. Um, Now for the support. This was a really tough decision. I'll go over all of them. Uh, so Guild Mage is really awesome here because he has the transmutation trigger. So the printing press pushes a model 4 inches and gives it burning 2, or 8 inches and burning 4. And then the Guild Mage converts that to focus. Fucking awesome. That's really, really sweet. Um, and on top of that, because I have the Peacekeeper in the crew, um, I kind of hit that critical mass of discard, right? Like Guild Lawyer can discard, Peacekeeper can discard, Alison Dade can discard, Nellie can discard. Uh, that's like, and Guild Mage itself can discard. So that's like 5+ heals a turn from Mage, which just seems like that's exciting. So he seems like a really good support model here. He does die kind of easily, and with Nekima, she's really good at killing support pieces. So that's my biggest concern. But I thought I'd give it a go. And ultimately, I skipped the steward because I'm like, oh, I always play the steward. Let's try something else. Let's try some of the new combos. So yeah, I took the guild mage for 7 stones. Um, Guild lawyer. I really wanted Melissa Core with the no prisoners here. I thought that was really good for this matchup. Uh, and I feel bad playing Melissa and Peacekeeper without the obey. And again, this is probably why I shouldn't have taken the Peacekeeper, because I now need to get 2 power tokens on Melissa turn 1, which means she needs to charge twice on turn 1, which means that I have to take the lawyer if I want to do that. His shielded also really combos with armor 2, so he's really great from that perspective. Shielded is really good against Black Blood, so he's good from that perspective. Um, he again dies a bit easily, which is not ideal on this pool where you want stuff. Pro tip for Guard the Stash: kill all the weak, shitty models so they can't score, is a battle plan. I've left myself vulnerable to that battle plan with my cheap models being still. I don't think that was super wise of me, but that's right. Guild Lawyer also has draw out secrets, which matters for leave mark pools. I wasn't sure if I'm going to go for that, but I like having that option open. And it's also there for the denial option as well, which can be really important. Sometimes that last minute clutch obey to drop a marker can deny the point. Um, and then, of course, Nellie abuses key markers to no end. So that's really good. And there's a few other combos. Oh, the Chatty Aura. With Chatty Aura, I can force people to discard if I force them to interact, if I'm not controlling that interact. So there's just a lot of synergies here for the player. So he seemed like a good call. And that leaves me with 3 stones. And I think the fact that this leaves me with 3 stones is the single biggest reason this is the wrong list, as we'll come to in a moment. I should have swapped one of these guild lawyers or guild mages for the guild steward. Possibly the guild lawyer, I think. And then guild steward is much harder to kill because he'll often kill the model that kills him, which is really, really helpful on the pool. And then on top of that, he's 1 stone less, so I would have 4 stones instead of 3. Like now I'm just really relying on my defensive tech to keep alive. Which I thought was a good plan, but my opponent has a blowout decision here that I'm really worried about. So my opponent, Nekima to Blood Hunter, and then freaking Angel Eyes. My opponent hired Angel Eyes, and that's everyone talks about how terrible Angel Eyes is. But that's because Angel Eyes is really bad once she's engaged. She doesn't deal well with engagement, and she doesn't deal well with being hit because that's full. But Guild really, really sucks at target selection. What Guild can do is Guild can destroy what you put in front of them, right? Like, so if Nekima wants to fill this part of the board with models, I can deal with them. If Nekima wants to put like Angel Eyes right here on the board shooting my crew the whole game, like, what the heck do I do about that? Luckily, this forest provides concealment. Angel Eyes is vulnerable too, so that's going to put some pressure there. But like, it's really annoying that she's like, Nekima's managed to become the one with the superior range threats, especially with Mysterious Embassy. Nekima can drop tots into the middle of my crew. Although again, my Black Blood resistance helps deal with that. So she has a whole bunch of ranged threats. I've managed to negate most of them, except freaking Angel Eyes. With that armor piercing trigger, means Melissa Core is in so much danger. And I kind of wish that I had more stones to protect Melissa from Angel Eyes. As 6 stones, now he can armor piercing over and over, which might get kind of dicey for me. We'll see if I can handle it. But that's, if I lose the game, I expect to lose to Angel Eyes, which is hilarious. Everyone calls for fighting some challenges. Taking Noxious Neff, that's more corpse production, and then other keywords: Black Blood Shaman, Double Terratot. This is a build that emphasizes growth, so he's a bit vulnerable to early aggression, which, like, if I had the Lone Marshal Melissa core build from last time, for instance, maybe backed up by Fiona, I'd be able to scalpel these models really effectively because I could kill them and then I could run away. I might be able to pull that off. I have some plans to do that with Melissa, but that depends on him making some mistakes. That may not actually happen. But fingers crossed. Yeah, so his plan is to just rapid grow his crew and big threats. But luckily, those big threats, even when they're mature Nephilim, actually suck at killing my crew. I'm not actually worried about keyword. I'm worried about the tactics. Mysterious Emissary is absolutely amazing on this map, and I've played so much Neverborn. Like, I've played every crew in Neverborn. I've played Mysterious Emissary a fair bit. Any Neverborn player is going to look at the table and go, oh, I should play Mysterious Emissary. dominate the center with his markers. I just completely forgot he existed. But because he's playing Nekima, I took no prisoners, so my key beaters are immune to hazardous damage anyway. So that's just kind of like dumb luck on my part. If I was so you might make the mistake that this was intentional to avoid damage from the mysterious emissary, but no, it was a mistake on my part. I just forgot about it, and it was a happy accident for me and a sad accident for my opponent. That said, my opponent, he's a really good player, but I think maybe he was not aware of how likely it would be that Guild's bringing no prisoners into Nekima. Then, like, Nekima plus Mysterious Emissary is just not a good combo into Guild because you should be expecting those prisoners. So now Emissary against most of my crew does min 1 beat, which is not that great. He does make my Peacekeeper movement too. So my Peacekeeper is going to spend most of the game unable to move once staggered. No, that's fine. He has a ranged attack, which I'm going to be leaning, I think. Um, so, and he's like got the support options from earlier that I mentioned. So I think that'll be fine. So that's kind of how I'm viewing this matchup. I played against a lot of Nekima. She really folds to early aggression, which my build not that good at doing. So again, perhaps some lessons learned here. I could have focused on a little bit more of that early game aggro, but maybe I can pull it together. I think Peacekeeper is Peacekeeper and only coming in with 3 stones are where I've kind of learned my lesson here. But we'll see how much pressure the opponent can put on me and how much they can punish me. If they just charge straight into my face, I think they'll be Keeper's really happy. But if he plays a more cagey game, he goes for scoring these back points, which I think is a really good idea. And I may struggle a little bit, but I think by dominating the center, I can out perhaps by if, which is my playstyle. That's what I shoot for, and it's what Guild is good at, is winning diff. So I think that's the plan. Once again, thanks for listening. If you have any feedback about the sound, please feel free to send that through. And if you have any feedback about Guild, I'd love to hear it because, again, I'm quite new to this.